We do record these sessions if you ever want to watch them again. They are all on our website. Thank you, Eddie Salazar. This is a space where you do not need to do anything but show up and receive. So feel free to put yourself in that mindset, which is a really different mindset than we're in most of the time. We are thrilled that colleagues from across our campus facilitate these soul sessions. And today we are so grateful that Jody O'Brien, professor of sociology, chair of the Tenure and Promotion Committee, co-PI on the Advanced Institutional Formation Grant, dear colleague to many of us, leader on our campus, has participated in the spiritual exercises of St. Ignatius herself, and done the Ignatian Colleagues Program, is very steeped in Ignatian spirituality and just human wisdom. So Jody, so grateful to have you, and welcome.
Thank you, Jen. Thanks to all of you. I feel very honored to be here with you today, and very humbled actually, particularly on this rainy November day, and reading some of your chat check-ins about the range of feelings of being tired and fatigued, and maybe feeling some of that energy of the end of the quarter, which can be both exhilarating and exhausting at the same time. It's like a tired child who's excited but needs a nap. So I'm mindful of all of that. And as I share with you today some of my own reflections or thoughts, I invite you to maybe if you feel inclined, even turn off your screen or whatever you feel like that helps you just settle into the moment, and hopefully together we can share some thoughts that might resonate and touch you. This weekend, Saturday, I co-chair the board of directors for the Ingersoll Gender Center. It's the longest running direct service support group for transgender people in the United States. And we were hosting a Zoom event for Trans Day of Remembrance. So that was Saturday morning, and it was both energizing and sombering. And then in the afternoon and evening, I had the opportunity to celebrate with my Indian American family, my spouse's family, in an appropriately socially distanced way, Diwali, which is the Indian Festival of Lights ceremony, and celebrates the kind of triumph over good and evil. And I was reflecting on the juxtaposition of these events as the morning commemorated the deaths of so many people who have been some of the most marginalized among us. And the afternoon was a celebration with some smugness, given the recent election among us, of the triumph, hopefully, of good over evil in this Festival of Light. So as I was considering that juxtaposition and thinking about this time as one where there's so little that we can take for granted. We're very much in a liminal space, and liminal spaces can often be transitional or transformational for many of this. And as I was thinking about that, and I've been thinking about my own, applying my own Ignatian examen to my daily life, I've been reflecting a lot on my own ideals of radical inclusion. I've been questioning and examining for myself this very hard question of compassion for those whose politics don't reflect mine, and those whose way of life don't affect mine, especially those who have so much hate and vengeance for people like me. Does my radical inclusion really extend to them? So having been thinking about that, I thought it might be a good time to share this with you and share some of my own reflection on this. And again, hopefully it might resonate. Reverend Angel Kayode Williams is a Black queer Zen Buddhist priest, the author of Radical Dharma, which some of you may know. And in Radical Dharma, she writes, "I'm interested in changing the way change is done through inner awareness practice applied toward broad-based social change. Justice must come from a place of compassion and be rooted in love. Justice must come from a place of compassion and be rooted in love." These ideas are also foundational in our Jesuit educational values, with its aim of inner transformation toward the greater good, and with an emphasis on the dignity of the whole person. The Jesuit way of proceeding is through engagement with the whole community in a spirit of love and compassion. I went back and reread one of my favorite authors, Greg Boyle, Many of you have read Tattoos from the Heart, and this is from his second book, Barking to the Choir, in which he's quoting Pope Francis, who says, "The gospel of the marginalized is where our credibility is at stake. The essence of our credibility lies not in our rescue and our saving the poor, but rather by humbly surrendering to their leadership and listening to them." And Boyle writes, "My spiritual director, Bill Kane, often says, putting on Christ is the easy part, but never taking him off, that's the challenge." He reflects further on Pope Francis's words, who says, Jesus wants to include. It's an odd way to phrase it because it's a call to action in the present moment. Jesus's desire and longing and urge to include is happening now. It's about all of us wanting to stand where he stands and to include as he does. It's less about what it is we are to do at the margins and more about what will happen to us if we stand there. And reflecting on these passages, I realized that thinking about standing in the margins, in which I often include myself, putting on Christ might be the easy part. But what happens when I try to think about extending that to some of these folk that I feel so much difference from? I'm recalling them now as I grapple with the recent election and the realities of how deeply polarized we are as a nation, forcing me to really grapple with my own philosophies and ideals around compassion, radical inclusivity, and engaging with difference and contradiction. I want to engage with open-hearted listening, with genuine curiosity, with a willingness to be moved. I want to practice radical inclusion. But can I really practice these things? Can I engage honestly with your ideals when they target me and my family so directly? I try to think my way through this by finding commonality across the difference. In this case, democracy, preserving the commons and our liberties. Yes, maybe we can agree on that. But then I see you with your guns, expressing your right to bear arms. And remember how many times people have been given a pass in recent history for killing the queers like me. I see you with your walls and denials of due process because of the color of my family's skin and their ethnic religious traditions. And I'm forced to ask again, what is the common ground on which I can really meet you honestly? Much of my own scholarly work and personal practice of discernment is centered in Gloria Anzaldua's epistemology of contradiction, the experience of living in contradiction, constantly traversing boundaries and grappling with marginalities of a way of knowing and being that enables conscious awareness of the mythic trappings of the status quo, or what she calls the mythic norm. For Anzaldúa, this way of knowing, or conocimiento, is a consequence of living in Nepantla. Building on her earlier concept of mestiza consciousness, Nepantla is a concept she uses to describe the experience of being in between. We know where we're coming from, but we aren't sure where we're going yet. Doesn't that fit us all in these COVID moments? In her words, bridges span liminal or threshold places between worlds, spaces I call Nepantla, and a Nahuatl word meaning tierra entre medio. Transformations occur in this in-between space, an unstable, unpredictable, always in transition space, lacking clear boundaries. Living in this liminal zone means being in a constant state of displacement, uncomfortable, and an even alarming feeling. Anzaldúa was a Nepantlera, a term she coined to describe a unique type of visionary cultural worker, and at the heart of what she called her spiritual activism. Nepantleras are threshold people. They move within and among multiple, often conflicting worlds, and refuse to align themselves exclusively with any single individual group or belief system. This refusal is not easy. Nepantleras must be willing to open themselves to personal risks and potential woundings, which include but are not limited to self-division, isolation, misunderstanding, rejection, accusations of disloyalty. Yet the risk-taking has its own rewards, for Nepantleras use their movements among divergent worlds to develop innovative, potentially transformative perspectives. They respect the differences within and among diverse groups and simultaneously posit commonalities. Anzaldúa posits what she calls El Mundo Sordo, or the left-handed world. In El Mundo Sordo, it's a visionary place where people from diverse backgrounds with diverse needs and concerns can coexist and work together to bring about revolutionary change. These are the queer groups, the people who don't belong anywhere, not in the dominant world nor completely within our own respective cultures. Combined, we cover so many oppressions, but the overwhelming oppression is that we don't fit. Despite the many differences among us, we are all interconnected. We are all almas finas, or kindred spirits. For me personally, this is a beautifully inspiring set of ideas to embrace, to see ourselves as kindred spirits, endeavoring to map the complexity of the social world despite the shifting terrain, and to build bridges of mutuality and understanding across the chasms of difference that divide us. This philosophy has served me well for a very long time, but again, examining myself in these days, these dark polarized days, I have to ask myself, can I reach across the chasm of some of the things that divide us now? What kind of inner work does this require? Am I really open? Am I really able to open the gate, not only to the stranger within me, but the stranger without? I go back to Anzaldúa methodology in an acknowledgement of her additional essential element, which she calls the epistemology of the wound. The epistemology of the wound reflects the idea that contradiction and conflict, when fully expressed, usually involve pain. The pain reflected in the inequities, indignities, oppressions, and isolations experienced by so many of us so much of the time. The pain that we experience as we open ourselves to genuine comprehension of difference of others. Yes, Nepantlela is a time of self-reflection, choice, and potential growth, an opportunity to see through restrictive cultural and personal scripts. It's a radical time of disidentification. We disidentify with existing beliefs and social structures and models of identity. And in doing so, we embark on an inner transformation. And in doing so, our worldviews and self-identities are shattered. Nepantlela is painful, it's messy, it's confusing, it's chaotic. It signals the unexpected, uncontrollable shifts, transitions, and changes. Nepantlela hurts. For Anzaldúa, this experience of pain and woundedness, or in-betweenness and confusion, is the ideal terrain for really engaging in the self-examination as a method of generating deeper understanding of both self and other. It's a transformation that must occur inside out, or as Reverend Williams puts it, a different way of doing change, to prepare ourselves for the necessary open-hearted listening. That's the basis of collective bridging, of transformation and liberation. And I just want to take a minute here to pause as we come toward a close and ask you to consider your current pain. What are you struggling with? As you consider that, your own struggles, consider a neighbor or someone not like you. What are they struggling with? I invite you as you move through the week to tune into your pain, to tune into your challenges, to tune into the disidentification, the dislocation, the unsettledness that you may be feeling. And then when you look to others who may seem so different from us, think about the ways in which they're struggling with children, with parents, with the inability to visit loved ones, the many things that we're all struggling with right now. And think about what Father John Topol refers to as long vision solidarity, with an emphasis on commons rather than individual rights and indignations. I want to just end very quickly with a poem from the Canadian First Nations trans scholar, Kai Chen Tom. And Kai Chen Tom says, "We must accept that we cannot force others to change their thinking or their beliefs. We can, however, set boundaries on violent behavior, and we can enforce these boundaries. Justice may not always be successful at making everyone or anyone feel good. We do not all have to like each other or be friends or share personal space. Justice should work toward reducing future harm through de-escalation, as well as ensuring that everyone has the basic resources they need to live, heal, and enjoy life. Yes, we have the right to enjoy our lives. And we must love ourselves. We must encourage love. Love that is radical, love that digs deep, love that asks hard questions, that is ready to listen to the whole story and keep loving anyway. Love for the survivors, love for the perpetrators, love for the survivors who have perpetrated and the perpetrators who have survived. Love for the community that has failed us all. We live in poison. The planet is dying. We can choose to consume each other, or we can choose love. Even in the midst of despair, there is always a choice. I hope we choose love. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Jody, for inspiring us to choose love and to live in the borderlands and to notice our own pain. There's a lot of layers of pain at this time. So just be gentle with yourselves as we leave this space. We will see you again next Monday, and blessings to all.